In a split second, a single decision can alter the course of a life forever. For Officer James Carter, that decision shattered the fragile peace of a quiet night, propelling him into a nightmare of guilt and regret. As he faces the haunting consequences of his actions, he must navigate the blurred lines between right and wrong and confront a truth that could change everything. Can he find redemption, or will the weight of his choice crush him beneath its burden? Before we dive into today's story, let us know in the comments where in the world are you watching this video from. We'd love to hear from you. It was supposed to be a quiet night. Officer James Carter had signed up for this shift like any other, a chance to serve and protect his community, to uphold the law, and to make it home to his family in one piece. But that night, that quiet night, would soon spiral into something he could never have prepared for. Carter had been on the force for 8 years. He knew every street, every alley, and every face in his precinct. But when the call came through the radio, his instincts sharpened. A suspicious vehicle reported in a known high-crime area. A possible armed suspect. It was the type of call that made his pulse quicken and his heart sink. Dispatcher told Unit 12, "We've got a black sedan spotted on 14th and Grove. Occupant may be armed. Proceed with the caution," Officer Daniels told. "Looks like it's our lucky night. You ready for this, Carter?" Officer Carter told, "Let's just hope it's nothing." The air was thick with tension as they pulled up behind the car. Every nerve in Carter's body was on high alert. He'd been in situations like this before. Some ended peacefully, others didn't. Officer Carter told, "Police, step out of the vehicle, hands where I can see them." Carter's voice was firm, commanding, but inside he felt the familiar churn of unease. His training taught him to expect the unexpected, to always prepare for the worst, and tonight something about this scene felt off. Officer Carter told, "Keep your hands where I can see them. Step away from the vehicle." Woman told, I didn't do anything. Please, don't shoot." Officer Carter told, "Ma'am, I need you to turn around and face the vehicle. Any sudden moves and I will have to act. Do you understand me?" And then it happened, a moment that would change everything. Officer Carter told, "Stop! Don't move your hands." I said, "Stop." 1 second, that's all it took. 1 second to make a decision, 1 second to pull the trigger, and now, as the echoes of the gunshot faded into the night, Carter's world unraveled. Officer Daniels told, "Carter." "What the hell just happened?" Officer Carter told, No. Please don't let this be real." Woman told, "Help me, my baby." Her words hit Carter like a freight train. Baby? What baby? 1,000 thoughts flooded his mind, but one thing was certain. He had just shot a pregnant woman. In the span of just a few heartbeats, Officer James Carter's life transformed from a protector of the peace to a man haunted by the chaos of his own decision. The reality of what he had done crashed over him like the relentless rain that drenched his uniform. Officer Carter, panicking, No, stay with me, help is coming, please, just hold on." As his fellow officers arrived, Carter could feel the suffocating weight of judgment in their eyes. He was no longer just another cop on the beat. He had become the man who had shot an unarmed woman, a woman who was carrying a child. Sergeant Lewis told, "Carter, what happened? Talk to me." His mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, each one more horrifying than the last. What if she died? What if the child died? Would he be held responsible? Would he lose everything? The weight of the consequences loomed over him like a dark cloud, suffocating and relentless. Paramedic told, "We need to stabilize her. Get the IV ready." Woman told, "Please, save my baby." Carter felt as though he was drowning in a sea of regret, each wave crashing over him, pulling him deeper into despair. He had always been the one to protect, to serve, but tonight he was the threat. The realization hit him hard. He had become the very thing he had vowed to fight against. Officer Carter told, "I didn't know. I swear, I thought she was reaching for a weapon." Sergeant Lewis told, "Carter, what happened? Talk to me." His mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, each one more horrifying than the last. What if the child died? Would he be held responsible? Would he lose everything? The weight of the consequences loomed over him like a dark cloud, suffocating and relentless. Paramedic told, "We need to stabilize her. Get the IV ready." Woman told, "Please, save my baby." Carter felt as though he was drowning in a sea of regret, each wave crashing over him, pulling him deeper into despair. He had always been the one to protect, to serve, but tonight he was the threat. The realization hit him hard. He had become the very thing he had vowed to fight against. Officer Carter told, "I get it, James. But you need to stay calm and focused. We need to figure out what happened." The sirens blaring and the rain pounding against the pavement created a surreal atmosphere. It was as if the world outside had come to a standstill, leaving him trapped in this moment of horror. The woman's life, her child's life, hung in the balance, and he was the one who had put them there. Woman told, Why did you shoot me?" How could he explain the instinct that had taken over? How could he convey the fear that had gripped him in that split second? There were no words for the pain he had caused, no justification for the irreversible mistake he had made. As the paramedics rush the woman into the ambulance, the reality of the situation begins to unfold. "Paramedic, we're losing her. We need to move now." In that moment, as the ambulance disappeared into the night, Carter realized he was not just a police officer anymore. He was a man who had crossed the line, and there was no going back. The horror of his actions would follow him like a shadow, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the heavy burden of responsibility. Officer Daniels told, "James, what now?" Officer Carter, voice breaking. I don't know what to do." All he knew was that he had to face the consequences of his actions and the reality that lay ahead. The road to redemption would be fraught with obstacles, and the scars of this night would linger long after the rain had stopped. Inside the ambulance, time stretches and contracts, each second feeling like an eternity. The soft beeping of the heart monitor becomes an ominous reminder of the life hanging by a thread, while the paramedics work with precision and urgency, their voices a calm amidst the chaos. Paramedic Emily told, "Stay with us, ma'am. You're going to be okay. We're going to take good care of you." Woman told, "My baby, please." Paramedic Emily told, "We're doing everything we can. Just keep breathing for me, okay?" Paramedic Mark told, "We need to get her stabilized before we reach the hospital. Her blood pressure is dropping." As the ambulance races through the rain-drenched streets, Officer James Carter feels as though he is in a nightmare he can't escape. Every siren wail, every jolt of the vehicle sends his mind spiraling back to the moment he pulled the trigger. The weight of his actions presses down on him, suffocating and relentless. Officer Carter, to himself, "What have I done? How could I let this happen?" Paramedic Emily told, "Officer, can you give us some details?" "We need to know what happened," Officer Carter told. I thought she was reaching for a weapon. I panicked." Paramedic Emily told, "Panic can lead to mistakes. Right now, we need to focus on her." Paramedic Emily told, "Mark, we need to intubate her. I'm not getting a good reading." In that cramped space, surrounded by the sounds of medical equipment and the frantic efforts of the paramedics, Carter feels the walls closing in. Each breath the woman takes feels like a countdown, and he's acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. He had not just fired his weapon, he had disrupted lives, shattered futures. Officer Carter told, "Is she going to be okay? Please, just tell me she's going to be okay." Paramedic Emily told, "We're doing everything we can, officer. Just stay calm." With every passing moment, the weight of his choices crushes him. This woman, this mother-to-be, was now fighting for her life because of him. It was a burden he would carry forever, a haunting reminder of a single moment of fear that unraveled everything. Paramedic Mark told, "Get ready." "We're almost there." Paramedic Emily told, "Stay with us. We're almost at the hospital. You're doing great." Officer Carter told, I'm so sorry." In that fleeting moment, Carter realized the fragility of life. The weight of his badge felt heavier than ever, a symbol of authority that now felt like a shackle, binding him to his guilt and regret. The sirens blared, and the world outside faded into a blur as they rushed toward the hospital, the stakes impossibly high. Paramedic Emily told, "We have a 28-year-old female, gunshot wound to the abdomen, in critical condition. Her blood pressure is unstable." In those final moments before they wheel her away, Carter feels a profound sense of helplessness. He wants to scream, to cry, to do anything to turn back time, but time is a relentless force, and the consequences of that fateful decision are now a reality he must face. Before the badge, before the chaos of that fateful night, James Carter was simply a father, a loving husband. A man who found joy in the little things, like watching his daughter, Lily, run freely in the golden sunlight. It was a time filled with hope and laughter, where the world felt safe and full of promise. Officer Carter told, "You've got to hold it tight, sweetheart, just like this, and when the wind catches it, let it soar." In those moments, Carter was reminded of why he became a police officer in the first place. It wasn't for the glory or the recognition, it was to ensure that children like Lily could grow up in a world where they felt safe, where they could chase their dreams without fear. He wanted to be a protector, a hero in their eyes. Sarah told, "Look at her, James. She was so tiny, I can't believe how fast she's growing up." Officer Carter told, "Yeah, time really flies. We need to cherish every moment, don't we?" Sarah told, "You're such a great dad. I know you're always out there protecting others, but don't forget to enjoy these moments with her." Carter cherished these memories, the quiet evenings spent with his family, the laughter that filled their home. He had always believed that being a police officer was more than just a job, it was a calling. A way to give back to the community that had raised him, to create a safer future for his little girl. He immersed himself in community outreach, attending school events, and helping organize safety workshops. He wanted to be a figure of stability, someone the community could rely on. In his heart, he believed that he was making a difference, one interaction at a time. Officer Carter told, "There you go, buddy, now you're all set to run wild." But beneath the surface, there were shadows of doubt. Despite the smiles and laughter, Carter often wrestled with the weight of his responsibilities. He had seen the darker side of humanity, felt the weight of loss and tragedy. Each call he answered, each life he touched, brought a new layer of complexity to his role. Now, as he sat alone in that waiting room, the echoes of laughter and joy faded into a painful silence. The vibrant moments of his life felt like distant memories, overshadowed by the horror of the night. He could no longer see himself as the protector, but rather as the one who had caused unimaginable pain. Officer Carter, whispering to himself, "What have I done? How could I let this happen?" Nurse told Officer Carter, "The doctor would like to speak with you." In that moment, as he stood and followed the nurse, Carter realized that the choices he made that night would not just impact him, they would ripple through the lives of everyone he loved. The weight of his badge felt heavier than ever, a constant reminder of the line he had crossed. He had wanted to be a hero, but now he felt like a villain. The dreams he had for his family, the hopes he had nurtured, now hung in the balance, teetering precariously on the edge of fate. Would he ever be able to reclaim the man he once was, or would he be forever defined by the events of that night? In the waiting room, time felt like a cruel companion, each second stretched into an eternity, amplifying the guilt and panic that consumed Officer James Carter. He stared blankly at the wall, his mind a whirlwind of chaos, replaying the events of the night like a haunting film he couldn't escape. He felt like a ghost in that waiting room, a mere spectator in a nightmare that was unfolding around him. The sterile environment, designed to save lives, now felt like a prison where he was confined by the shackles of his choices. He couldn't shake the image of the woman lying on the stretcher, her eyes filled with fear and pain, and he couldn't escape the haunting question that gnawed at his conscience. What if she didn't make it? Around him, people were grappling with their own tragedies, yet he felt utterly alone. Each sob, each worried glance in his direction felt like an accusation. They didn't know what he had done, but he could feel their judgment, their silent condemnation pressing down on him. Officer Carter, whispering to himself, I didn't mean to hurt her, nurse told. Officer Carter, is she okay? Please tell me she's okay. Nurse told, the doctors are still working on her. I can't provide any updates at the moment, but they're doing everything they can. Hope felt like a cruel joke. It flickered like a candle in the wind, vulnerable and fragile. How could he hold on to hope when he had been the architect of this nightmare? The fear of losing her and her baby felt insurmountable. He couldn't shake the sense that he was somehow responsible for their fate. With every minute that passed, the weight of guilt pressed harder on his chest. He wanted to scream, to lash out at the world for the injustice of it all, but mostly he wanted to turn back time, to erase the moment he had pulled the trigger and changed everything forever. He could feel the pain radiating from the other families in the waiting room, the shared anguish that echoed his own. It was a reminder that life was fragile and unpredictable, that in one moment everything could change. He had always known that as a police officer, but now it felt like a bitter reality he couldn't escape. Officer Carter, muttering, what if she doesn't survive? What will I tell my family? How do I live with this? He could picture Lily, her bright smile lighting up the room, and Sarah, the unwavering support he had leaned on through every challenge. But what if he lost everything? How would he face them knowing he had caused a mother and child to suffer? The thought was unbearable. Doctor told Officer Carter, Doctor, I need to speak with you. In that moment, as he followed the doctor down the sterile corridor, Carter felt as though he was walking toward his own judgment day. The weight of his guilt pressed down on him like a leaden cloak, suffocating and relentless. He had crossed a line, and he was about to face the consequences of that fateful decision. With every step, he felt the ground shift beneath him, the reality of his actions becoming painfully clear. He had wanted to protect, to serve, but now he was left to confront the wreckage of his choices. Would he be able to bear the weight of what he had done, or would he be forever marked by this night, a night that had shattered the lives of so many? The moment the doctor stepped into the room, the air grew thick with tension. Officer Carter's heart raced, each beat echoing in his ears like a countdown to a fate he dreaded. He could see the seriousness etched on the doctor's face, the weight of the moment palpable between them. Doctor told Officer Carter, thank you for waiting. I know this is a difficult time. Officer Carter, is she going to be okay? Please, just tell me she's okay. Doctor told, I'm afraid it's complicated. The woman you shot is in critical condition. We were able to stabilize her, but there are serious concerns about both her and the baby. His mind raced, filled with visions of the woman, the fear in her eyes, her desperate plea for her baby. The reality of his actions bore down on him, a crushing reminder of the fragility of life and the heavy burden of responsibility he carried as an officer. Doctor told, she sustained a gunshot wound to the abdomen, and while we've managed to stop the bleeding, she may require surgery to save the baby. We're still monitoring her closely. Officer Carter told, what are her chances? Will she survive? Doctor told Anta, I can't provide a definitive answer. There are many factors at play, and we'll need to act quickly. But I want you to understand, the next few hours are critical. In that moment, Carter felt as though the ground beneath him had vanished. He was adrift in a sea of uncertainty, the reality of his actions crashing over him like relentless waves. The weight of his guilt pressed down harder with each passing second, threatening to swallow him whole. Doctor told, we're doing everything we can, officer. But I need you to remain calm. Your stress could affect your ability to process this information. He had always prided himself on being a protector, a man who stood between the innocent and danger, yet here he was, on the other side of that line, facing the consequences of a split-second decision that had irrevocably altered the course of multiple lives. Doctor told, "Officer Carter, I know you're feeling a range of emotions right now. It's important to understand that we're here to help, but you need to process what just happened." Officer Carter, voice shaking. "How do I live with this? How do I face her family? I shot an innocent woman, a pregnant woman." Doctor told, "You need to remember that you acted in a moment of fear. You believed you were protecting yourself and others, but that doesn't diminish the pain of the consequences." Carter's emotions were a turbulent storm: anger at himself, fear for the woman and her baby, and deep aching sorrow for the lives that had been irrevocably altered. He felt like a man standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering dangerously close to a fall he couldn't survive. Officer Carter told, "What can I do? How can I help?" The doctor places a reassuring hand on Carter's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity in the face of overwhelming turmoil. "Doctor, right now, the best thing you can do is wait. We'll keep you updated, and if there's anything you can do to help, we will let you know, but you must take care of yourself too." In that moment, Officer Carter understood that his journey was just beginning. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was ready to confront the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The weight of his choices would follow him, but he would not hide from it. He would face it head-on. As the doctor's words echoed in his mind, Carter felt the ground beneath him shifting. He had been plunged into a world of uncertainty, where every second felt like an eternity, and the consequences of a single moment loomed large. The stakes were impossibly high, and he was trapped in a reality of his own making. Officer Carter, barely above a whisper. "What if she doesn't survive? What if I've ruined everything?" Nurse told, "Officer Carter, the doctor needs you in the operating room. It's urgent." The urgency in her voice triggered a fresh wave of panic. What could possibly be happening? Was the woman's condition deteriorating? His mind raced with the worst-case scenarios, each one more horrific than the last. He had to know. He had to be there. They reached the operating room, and the nurse pauses at the door, glancing back at him with a mixture of sympathy and concern. "Nurse, you can't go inside yet. Just wait here." Time felt suspended as he waited, each second stretching into an agonizing eternity. He could feel the walls of the hospital around him, closing in as his thoughts spiraled into despair. What had he done? Would he ever be able to forgive himself for this? His pulse quickened as dread washed over him. What was happening? The chaos inside the operating room contrasted sharply with the sterile calm of the corridor, and he felt a sense of impending doom wash over him. Doctor told, "Officer Carter, we need to talk." Officer Carter told R, "Is she okay?" "What's happening? Please, just tell me." Doctor told, "There was a complication during the surgery. We managed to stabilize her, but there's more you need to know." Officer Carter told, "What do you mean?" "What more is there?" Doctor told. "We found something during the procedure, something that complicates her case even further. She was carrying a concealed weapon, officer, a gun." The world tilted beneath him as the truth unfolded. The woman he had shot wasn't just a victim, she was a potential threat. The panic that had gripped him in that moment of fear suddenly felt justified, yet the guilt remained, gnawing at his conscience. How had it come to this? Doctor told, "We're still monitoring her condition, but this changes everything. She could have been a suspect. This adds layers to the situation you're facing." Officer Carter, voice trembling. "What happens now? What do I do?" Doctor told, "You need to prepare for the possibility of legal consequences, but right now, your focus should be on her recovery. You need to be ready for whatever comes next." As Carter stood there, the weight of what he had done settled heavily on his shoulders. He would need to confront not just his guilt, but also the reality of the woman's situation. The lines between right and wrong had blurred, and he was left to navigate the murky waters of truth and consequence. In an instant, everything had changed. The road ahead would not be easy, but it was a path he must walk. The truth was now a double-edged sword, and he would need to find a way to come to terms with it, to face the consequences of his actions, and ultimately to seek forgiveness, not just from others, but from himself. What would you do in Officer Carter's shoes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more gripping narratives.